Do you know what the balance of that account is right now?
I don't off the top of my head. I can say we probably spent about 200,000 out of it, so there's probably 550,000.
Second is, it was several weeks ago, I think it was the last beacon that the board received. There was an article in there about the governor signing a I think it was $1.4 billion wastewater bill, and it hinted at going to 0% for the SRF. Has the wastewater committee looked into further there in terms of whether or not there might be some other opportunities for some additional grant money?
I think the 1.4 you're talking about is that knocking part of the SRF money down to the 0% money. We do continue to look at those numbers. Actually, the first conversation we had with DEP, most of the people there weren't even aware of that 0% funding. So Weston and Sampson is pretty much on top of it, and they do continue to look for alternatives. Obviously, the cheaper the money we can get, the more that drives down the cost of the project.
And lastly, has the wastewater committee met with the Hillview Commission regarding utilization of the,
We met with them, I want to say it was a week ago, last Thursday.
okay, you have met
And
with
we
them.
actually got, there was a unanimous vote of support.
Questions, anybody?
Mark, on the alternative plan, what would be the betterment charge on both ends?
The phase one betterment, which would be more the commercial district, the cost goes up to about $21,000 per EDU.
Based on what percentage?
I believe it's tricky for me to explain it because I'm not the expert in it, but I believe for that, they looked at the numbers and it works out at like a 75% betterment. And the other number comes down to, I have 15,750, so just under 16,000. So it came down from 20,000 to 16,000.
And that 21,000,
Still close to
I'm sorry, the 21,000 is essentially the unit that would be considered a housing unit. So a business would be multiple housing units, depending on the size of the business and property.
As you'll recall, the basis of an EDU is 200 gallons a day, which is the equivalent to a single-family flow. So if you had a 2,000 gallon per day, which is 10 times a single-family home, you would be 10 EDUs, and you'd be assessed 10 times that $21,000.
Thank you. Anyone else on the board have a question? Finance committee? Yeah.
Other places where you can discharge water, would there be any potential that the building supply places down 62? I see they spread water to hold down the cost. You had something that's cheaper for you,
We typically don't need to keep it in North Reading. I do believe they have their own wells. You're talking the Benevento pit as you head out of town. I mean, technically you wouldn't. You could probably sell it to them as a customer, but again, that would be a summertime application, if you will. We still need the capacity to put 100% in the ground during the winter. We are considering, one of our discharge sites is the DPW, not too far removed from that is Citrus River Park, which is a good irrigation community. Our other primary discharge site is on the Berry property, which the Mullen field is just down the road. And anytime we can reuse the water for beneficial purposes, certainly would be worthwhile.
I had been following something going on in Chatham with 0% interest loan, and they're saying that they may not be price down back to the quarter or third, or very good life in the
It is a significant savings. When we started the process, the initial state revolving fund we had was at 0%, and they always considered that equivalent to a 50% grant. The 2% loan they considered equivalent to a 25% grant. So it is a significant change in cost. The way it's worded, in my understanding, it would only be applicable to a portion of the cost, the treatment plant cost, the discharge field cost, not the piping in the street per se. But it's still good.
Mark, with respect to making a presentation to the board and considering a public hearing, we would like to get a date nailed down pretty quick, because I would like to hold it in a room larger than this, maybe over at the school or something. And and maybe even as a separate meeting.
Okay, we would be open to that.
So we would need some lead time, especially now that school's in session.
Okay, I'll get
Pick a
something
date.
for this board.
Any other questions? Anyone else in the nave? Any of our visitors? No? Okay, thank you, Mark. The next item on our agenda is approval of the charge to the Fiscal Advisory Committee. This is a charge that they have been working toward, and the board has never formally voted to accept the charge. So I ask the board to consider approving the charge to Fiscal Advisory
It's not like they were
Committee.
wandering aimlessly in the
No,
night.
I don't think they were wandering aimlessly.
It's,
So with that, Mike, motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Perhaps maybe I'll read the charge so everybody. Okay, I'll read it now. The Fiscal Advisory Committee, FAC, shall be appointed by the Board of Selectmen. Membership shall be limited to 12 interested citizens with varied skills and experience, and 1 voting member from the Board of Selectmen, School Committee, and Finance Committee. The primary objective of the FAC is to research and identify cost savings, efficiency, and sources of new revenue. The FAC shall investigate both short-term and long-term goals and opportunities. The findings of the FAC shall be presented in report form with recommendations to the Board of Selectmen, School Committee, and Finance Committee for consideration. It will be up to the Board of Selectmen, School Committee, and Finance Committee, within the sphere of their authority, to consider the feasibility of FAC's recommendations and to proceed with implementation.
That. Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the charge of the Fiscal Advisory Committee.
second.
Motion made by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Any discussion?
Just the only comment I had, as the liaison from this board to the Fiscal Advisory Committee, for the number of months that we've been operating since June, this has been what the committee has been guided by in terms of their investigation, their research, and the work that's been commenced since June.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? I guess we're waiting for a projector. We'll take a 5-minute break to allow
of Selectmen to the Fiscal Advisory Committee and prepared to give our first presentation to this board this evening. I'd just like to take a moment to point out the members of the committee who are present here this evening. I have Joseph Laria. Joe, raise your hand. I also have Mario Peroni, Joseph Foti, Mike Kirby. I have Mel Webster, who is soon to be, once he gets sworn in.
I want to say, I'm new and I've done nothing, so if they're praising the committee, not, which include me in that praise,
What if we're bowing them?
We have been led for the last 4 to 5 months by our chairperson, Mike Frisco. Now I call upon Mike to begin our presentation to the board.
Sean, it might be worthwhile at least dimming half the lights.